Okay, hi, I'm Ruth Van Alstine from Hope at Hand. Hope at Hand is a local nonprofit that provides poetry therapy programming for at-risk youth in North Florida. We also host Jack's Poetry Fest every April, and these are all free of charge. We are funded by a variety of arts and culture grants, which we'll talk about later at the very end. And we appreciate your donation, and which supports our poetry programs for at-risk kids and provides global opportunities to engage with poetry through Jack's Poetry Fest. At the end, I'll be doing a wrap up on these things, but I'll also put in the chat for those who leave early the links for and QR codes for survey and so forth. So with that further ado, we have today Carrie Voigt Schonhoff, and she's going to lead us in a workshop on free verse. So take it away, Carrie.
Well, thank you for that intro, Ruth. I appreciate it. And welcome, everybody. I'm excited to see so many folks online today. And just want you to know that this is a safe space. Everybody's welcome. And we just want to be really make sure that we listen to all voices and that everyone's free to speak, and it's a safe space. So I live in Madison, Wisconsin, and I have published two books. One is called The Liminal Space, and one is The End of the Beginning. I'm working on my third book, which should be out in fall, and it's a real passion of mine. I started writing when I was younger. Thank you, Dee. I started writing when I was younger, in high school, and I was also on the newspaper in college, but I kind of lost track of my love of writing until in 2012, my husband passed away from a pulmonary embolism. And I have two kids. They were 4 and 7 at the time. So it really just, kind of restarted my life in a way. And I turned to poetry. And then I hired an editor, Simon Van Boy, who is an author in his own right, and to help me put something together. And he said, at the end of this, I want you to have a book that is representative of your emotional journey. And I thought, well, that sounds great. I really didn't have any idea of what that meant. And I just knew that I wanted to put something together. Right. And so when the liminal space came out, um, I realized when I started reading to people had the book, that something started to happen. And they started to connected in a way that we hadn't before. And there is also magic in this and healing. A lot of people had gone through some hard times as well, and they really enjoyed it. So I just thought, well, this is amazing. It was also incredibly validating. You know, um, Even my parents, I think, rediscovered their daughter. So then I started work on the second book, The End of the Beginning, and it's a new start, right? I had been through a transformation, then through the liminal space came out, and it was a new beginning. So I just, I'm just, continuing to write, and had gone to a couple residencies, which has been awesome. If you haven't done that, I highly recommend it. And yeah, this is a side project. I have a day job, but I'm really excited to be here. So let's get started here. Oops. So let's get on a journey here today. Make sure, when I mean, this is optimal to be in a comfortable space, to have a candle and incense going, and just a zen place. Make sure you have some paper, pen that you love. I have pens and of various colors and sizes. I don't know what you guys, but I have a lot of pens, right? Like Mari's got her candle going. And I have journals that I ordered from, I think it's Papier, but it's it's funny because this journal is spring 2022 and I have yet to finish it, but um I got one for each season. I thought, oh, this is amazing. And I'm just not as quick on that, but I use my phone um wherever I am, and something comes to me, and I try to write it down as soon as I can, because sometimes it just blows with the wind if you don't write it down. So I also love music. I have various Bluetooth things in my phone to play music, just to get into that headspace. Um, I have a desk that I use for work and things like that. But I recently kind of took over another space in the house and put up a desk, inexpensive desk and chair. It faces my backyard. I live on 26 acres. So I get to look at the fields and, any deer, things that are walking by. And it's just been really great to have that space. I'm very excited. So I really encourage you guys to, create a space when you can. I know you have busy lives and a lot of people tugging at you sometimes, but try to create that space. So, poets, I mean, people talk about poetry, they're like, oh, I can't do poetry. I don't know what that is. And poets, I mean, I don't know, they wear berets and they talk French and things like that. But it's really, um, everyone has a story to tell. And poets and writers in general, they have decided that they have a story to tell and it's worth sharing. And it's cathartic for them to get out, and it is also magical to share. So um, it takes courage to be vulnerable, and I really appreciate that about each of you here today, because I know that it takes a lot of courage to write your thoughts down. um, I typically, people say, well, what do you write about? And I use kind of a glib answer, and I say people, places, and things. But definitely experiences. I tend to, when I'm writing, describe a scene and then kind of bring people in, and then end it with a very um, kind of snappy ending, which you'll see in a second. I'll share some poetry with you. But one of the things that's been really important to me is to travel. I mentioned earlier that Ireland is on my bucket list, and I don't, I've traveled in the U.S. a bit. I've been to London. I was there once in 1999. I was to Vienna a couple years ago, and that was magical. I really loved that trip, and I went to. I was talking about residencies where you go for like a week or two, and you get to do your art. So in our case, we'd be writing. I went to one in South Carolina in October, and then one in Temecula, California in February. And this summer, my daughter, she's in college, but she's graduating, and we're going to go for 2 weeks to Champagne, France, to an art residency. So whoop whoop, right? I'm really excited about that, and it's going to be magical with my daughter too. So um, it's great for us to explore, because we see things that might remind us of a story that we want to tell. Maybe the smell of something, a view of something, we think, this is the story that I want to tell. So I encourage you to travel when you can. Free verse. So, it just means that we don't have the structure. We don't have to count. We don't have to rhyme. We can just get our thoughts on the paper. Um, and, it's important to use metaphors and some rhythm. It's important when you're writing a poem to read it out loud to hear it. And maybe there's a word that sounds different that you want to put in so it sounds a little different, not as many syllables. But there are no rules, and you can make it as short or as long as you want. So I find that liberating myself. Um, and it's just a poem is a complete thought. It's a complete moment, and so hopefully we can get some free verse going today. So I'm going to read a couple of poems that I have in my books to kind of get your creative juices going. Okay. Heal. In the small town, I look up at the crescent moon and the water tower with its painted carousel. Middle Earth is where everything grows. I dreamt of a fluorite necklace. It found me the next day at the fair trade market. I should buy a bowl of tumbled gems and sprinkle them in my house, or hold one in my hand while I sleep, or put a crown over my brow to heal or clear the worry I own. There is the town that I live in. There is a painted carousel um, on the water tower. Carousel is a big deal here in the little town. So, and I love having all sorts of rocks, gems. I think they're pretty cool, and um, so those are a couple little. I always like have little secrets in each of my poems. Ghosts. I've seen lights flicker in the middle of the night that had no business being lit. Old greeting cards on the ground from those long or freshly gone. I made an appointment to see a psychic for a spiritual tune-up. Burning sage might scare them away, but what fun would that be? So one night, I noticed that some cards had slipped from my nightstand onto the floor, and it was from my husband. And also, there was some light flickering that went on, particularly in the first couple years. And so, I have mixed feelings about that, I suppose. But um, I read this recently at a elementary school to a group of sixth graders, and afterwards, a girl came up to me and said that her mom had died, and she thinks that the cardinal that has been coming to her yard is her mom. So that's just that's what I'm saying is like how is that experience going to happen? How are we making it? But if not through poetry, so the end of the beginning. Black and orange monarchs dot the cool slate sky. They will soon give their color to the autumn leaves, surrender to something bigger. Curiously enough, I wrote this poem a week before my husband died. So it seems like the universe was trying to tell me that something, you're going to have a new beginning. And this is always a popular poem. Narcissus, I'm glad you're in love with yourself. Saves one of us the trouble. Yeah, everybody knows a narcissist, right? So, okay. So now it's time for us to write. Before we get started, does anyone have any questions? You can unmute yourself and talk if you want. I guess you guys have been putting stuff in the chat. I'm sorry. I'm trying to do too many things at once, but I will look in the chat. Oh, we've got something from somebody from Vancouver and oops, where was that? Quebec. Um, all right. Okay. Great stuff. No rules. Whoop whoop. All right. Does anybody have any questions? You want to unmute yourself? Are you good to go? You ready? Okay. Okay, let's take a couple of deep breaths. Okay, so as far as what you're going to write about, you can think about it. You can have it be a place that maybe you've traveled to that you want to write about. And um, I want you to think about, sometimes we think things and we think, well, no one could possibly be interested in what we have to say, or that's just for me. But I want you to think that maybe that you have something to say that others would want to read or deserves to be on the paper in this poem. And so I want you to take a couple of minutes and write down some words or sentences on the topic. Start creating a word bank. So, like if I were to talk about Vienna, I would say clean streets, beautiful art, prosecco. Just saying. Um, you know, Swarovski, Mozart. So, at the opera. Yes, Ellie, are you raising your hand? Or
Yeah.
Elle? Elle,
Hi, this
sorry.
is Elle from Saskatchewan. I just wanted to ask how how do we do you have any advice on how to narrow down places? Because I my brain works really, 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 really fast. And yeah. Do you have any more like info on like what kind of place or how we should feel or not, you know what I mean, right?
So, poetry is also putting feelings down on the paper. And so I want you to think of a place where you had very strong feelings, either happy or sad, or somewhere but just have it be very strong feelings, and maybe it's coupled with maybe there's a diner that you had a breakup with your mate, and you're thinking about the coffee and the eggs that got cold, and um the man across the way that's staring at you while you're crying. So just something that's an example of something sad. um you know I love Vienna because it just was independence, and I was just think about how absolutely clean that, and it was so quiet there. How is this big city so quiet? You know, and like I said, the prosecco, I did have a couple of glasses of that, but so does that help, Elle?
Absolutely.
Okay, okay. Does anybody else have any questions? That was a great question, by the way. Does anybody have any other questions? Or are you just going at it, putting some words down? Okay. Yeah, let's just take a couple of minutes. Um, yeah, let's just take 2 minutes. So it'll be 12:26 Eastern, US Eastern. Okay. Do you guys want a couple of minutes? in addition, or do you feel like you need a couple more minutes? Or you feel like, yeah, a couple more. Okay, let's go a couple more minutes. How about let's go to the bottom of the hour? Okay, so 12:30 Eastern. Okay. Okay, one more minute. And don't worry, we'll have more time to work on it. Okay. All right. How's everybody doing? Oops. Sorry. Good? Feel good? All right. So just a couple of, reminders that, you become a poet when you open yourself up emotionally, like we were talking earlier. And when the willingness to look inside, you'll see things that, um, that impact you and might impact the world that you want to write about. Um, just keep writing about what you saw or imagined and describe it in the smallest detail. You can always trim things down or edit it. It takes more editing than you might imagine to get that just right. So just want to make sure you guys don't judge yourself. Try to put the critic in the back seat. Um, Tell them to take a break, and make sure to tell it like it is. I know for me, sometimes it's been difficult. I'm a natural people pleaser, recovering people pleaser. And so it's hard to understand that it's okay to stand in my truth sometimes. I don't have to say what others want me to say. I can say what is my truth. And that would go for you too. And don't forget to take some breaths, maybe get some fresh air. Um, so I was wondering if a couple of you would like to share how it's going or kind of what direction you're headed. And it's okay if you don't want to share now. We can keep on going and then you can share later. Oh, Bonnie raised her hand. Oops, sorry. News keeps coming up. Oh, Bonnie, you're on mute. Okay, there you go.
I was kind of going with Whitefish Point, which is in Michigan, on Lake Superior. And it's just someplace that I spent time as a kid. And then I've taken my husband there. It's probably one of my favorite places. And to be honest, I write some pretty dark poetry, but this for me is a really happy moment. And I think I can let myself stand in the moments of happiness also. It's okay.
That's so wonderful. That is so
Thank you.
wonderful. Yeah, I hear it. I love a good sad song. I I love a good dark poem. But I'm really glad that you found that happy moment to talk about. Parv, you have your hand up. You want to share?
Hi, can I share my poem? It's not very long.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. The trees can't keep still. The branches split like atoms, ad hoc, ad lib. They split diverse, no longer together. The sun holds them, splits them. The wind waves them goodbye or not. The sky white, still warm. Pink, white cherry blossom falls like confetti everywhere. A woman looks like a balloon walking by. A hairy kiwi sits on the table.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Parv. So many wonderful images.
Thank you.
Yeah, just wow. Um, Generalissimo, Brian Franco, did you want to share?
Sure, I'll share. Okay. Um, I think it's been raining for 24 hours at least. When I woke this morning, the wind was roaring, which is categorically worse than howling and more jarring than whistling. These oh so human noises we assign to weather I think might have existed before we existed, when there was just the giant blue-green swirly marble and its dusty mini-me floating in their places in space before all the flora rose from the soil and beneath the wild waters before the animals happened.
I love it. It's beautiful. Victoria, did you want to share? And then what we'll do is we'll have Victoria share, and then I'll give you guys a few more minutes to, continue writing and maybe tweak it a little bit. Okay. So Victoria, go ahead.
In a few shadowed places, the trash is higher. Just as much of it is gathered along a wall. 10 years ago, for 10 years now, I've had to be prepared to walk around the trash suddenly. A blackbird is normally nearby. I see an old shelter is more nude and the mine more seen. How many wildcats live in there now? And I say, this is messy, y'all. I'm trying to read this. I think I might have to stop. It's messy.
Okay, well, you know what? The good news is you're getting started and you're putting some stuff down on paper, and that's a wonderful thing. And that's something to be very proud of.
Sort it out. You know what I
Yeah.
said.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a few more minutes. Does anyone have any blocking things, or are you all feeling pretty good about just putting thoughts down? Okay. I'm going to take that as a yes. You're good to go. Okay. So let's take 10 more minutes. So 12, 46. Okay, we'll take a little few more minutes. Let's give it one more minute. Okay. How's everybody doing? Good. Bonnie's got her thumb up. It's a good sign. So, I put up this screen because, hopefully when you're writing right now, you're kind of tweaking it, taking out some unnecessary words. Maybe you're going to change the line. So the first line is now going to be the third line, and you're going to use some fresh words. So my editor is always like, but how could we say that in a fresh way? Like no one else has said that before this particular way. And I think, gosh darn it, I don't know. I'll have to think about it. But it's good because it makes a poem unique to you. So like I said, move things around to tell the story. Sometimes when you write it on the paper, then it's not flowing the way it needs to flow. So we have about 15 more minutes, maybe a little bit less, of our workshop. Do you guys, would you guys like to share a little bit of what you've been working on and how it feels, and if you've run into any, epiphanies, jams, etc.? You can raise your hand if you want to share. Victoria? I don't know, Victoria, if you had your hand raised from before. Oh, we can go back to the last one.
Yeah. I found it a little bit. I found this is kind of confusing. I find that my problem area with being more clear is sort of like in the middle of my verse, the middle. It's almost like I get in my own way maybe a little bit. I start like trying to control the flow a little bit rather than almost like I don't trust the natural voice without the imagery.
Do you ever do you have a typewriter of any sort?
No,
or a keyboard?
no. Yeah, I do have a keyboard.
So what you might try it, and maybe you have an iPad with a keyboard or something, or a keyboard, what you might try versus the pen and paper is just sitting down and just kind of typing away, and maybe that will be a little bit more freeing.
Yeah, I find that once I switched to the typing, it came a little easier, but I think that maybe I should start off typing and then maybe jump into the writing.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes one's going to work and the other one won't, I mean, so I think that's a good way of kind of breaking out, it's just a little freeing if you can. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that. One thing I was going to say too is when you get to a place, it's always good if you can find at least one person to read it to, because they're going to be like, what exactly were you saying there? Or I wasn't quite sure what that was, and that word really kind of was jarring. So it's always good to find at least one person. Harv, do you want to share?
Hi, I quickly wrote another poem looking out of the window. Grey headphones, faded jeans, under the white clouds. Blue VW headlights on in the afternoon sun, not a bird in sight, only the sound of kids on scooters. Green leaves shine under the spotlight, no berries. Blonde hair, a beige dress, grey Ray-Ban glasses, looks and turns back in black heavy-duty boots. White BMW of long ago dreams, parked, still waiting. That's it.
And you know what I would encourage you to do is think about what is the beating heart of the poem.
Okay.
You're very good at describing things. I love your descriptions. But what is it that you want to say? You know, all these things are going on, and I wish I was outside, or I wish I had someone to ride a bike with,
Yes.
or so I would encourage you to think a little bit about that. Bonnie.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'll just share what I have. I did struggle because there's a few words I'd like to get into my poem that I don't have in there yet. And I don't think I've closed my poem quite well enough. But I like what I've done so far. And I think there's always time to go back and craft and edit. And I love that you've said that. Because that's important to remember. This isn't the last time. We're going to come back to these words again and again. So mine is called Michigan Shore. Standing in Lake Superior, feet and ankles instantly red from the cold, clear water. Just one more, I say. There is always one more smooth stone to pluck, to pocket, or toss on the wind, just to hear kerplunk. Each gem and bit of sand sticks to my heart like postcards or grains to feed me until I return. I'm not happy about my ending, but I'll get there.
I love it.
This is
I love
this
it.
has been fun. Thank you.
Yeah, that's so great. Ren.
Hey, okay, technical difficulties there. Sorry about that. So I love the piece that I think it was Bonnie that said, I write dark poetry too, and it normally comes from pain. I mean, it'll be like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I've got my phone in my hand, jotting down lines and notes, and I can't tell you how many of those have gone through several revisions. So I guess that's where it was. So I like this because this was a stretch to do something different, and it is what it is. I mean, and I like this exercise, so thank you. And I called this one Shared Grace. Worn boards line the dock at end of day. Cotton candy spins in sky. I scoot my aqua chair closer to you. A finger extends, pulling lips back in a satisfied smile. A blue heron lights upon the seawall. White feathers at his neck catch the wind. My hand finds yours. No words exchanged. We know the simple grace this bird brings here. The end.
The end. That's wonderful. By the way, I just wanted to say, I love the comments and how supportive you guys are in the chat. And, whatever you do on your poetic journey, make sure to find people that are supportive of you. If people are not supportive of your poetry, then don't waste time sharing it with them. There will be plenty of people that will want you to share it and will be touched by it. And we connect through art. And this is just one way. So, yeah, don't be afraid. Chris J., you want to share?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Wonderful. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed the reminder to travel because it took me to Athens in my 20s, which is a long time ago. Cafe frappe at 3 a.m. in a quiet square, scribbling nonsense, waiting for the dawn of inspiration, or just dawn, already dreaming of the creamy cinnamon-crusted rice dish that starts every day, served hot from the grills like ambrosia for night owls, vagabond writers who haunt these all-night tavernas, ready to pounce on fleeting moments with the ruthlessness of winged predators. Swept clean of late-night revelry and rambunctiousness, an oasis of peace in the small hours before the clatter of morning deliveries and the growing traffic hum. The square belongs to urban mice, glorious wild moths, and scribblers, a tiny ecosystem alive within a window of time and space, and the tolerance of taverna keepers for those whose presence produces neither profit nor problem, just a silent sense of community. Thank you.
That was amazing. I gotta get to Greece. That's what I'm taking away from that. Just so magical, Chris. That is really amazing. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, you took me right there. Generalissimo, would you like to share?
Sure. I'm just gonna go back a little bit to just an earlier place in the poem so I can continue on. These oh so human noises we assign to weather, I think might have existed before we existed, when there was just the giant blue-green swirly marble and its dusty mini-me floating in their places in space, before all the flora rose from the soil and beneath the wild waters, before the animals happened, and due to all the befores, we the people are another after, which of course will serve as a future before. Not to say that we can't continue as both after and before, as long as we respect all the befores that came before us, and understand that our status as both a before and after is reliant on knowing there is no such status as a status quo, because time is replete with befores and afters and will always happen the way it has always happened.
Thank you so much for sharing. This is one of those poems that really just, you're going to think about afterwards for a while. And so thank you for sharing that. So we'll do one more share and then we'll wrap up. I know it's like, gosh darn it, the time goes so fast. I see, Elle, you have your hand up, but I know T. Nyhouse. So I guess, T, can you share real quick and then we'll get to Elle? And then
Yes, I
hopefully
can.
we'll wrap up. Okay.
This is New Orleans.
All right.
Preservation wails the trombone, and its case remembers, becomes a herald hanging rusty from wrought iron and old wood. Blue porch ceilings trap heat, trick flies. Streets a motley, paved with floodwater memory throws, the good times rolling down sidewalks and trolley tracks, seeping into the neutral ground. Hurricane in glass, frozen and boozy bright. Hurricane season, drawing attention to the holes in the roof. Tourists' migrations bank, turn aside. Few wish to suffer Louisiana's August breath. The Mississippi winds along uncaring, so near its unburdening, sprawl of silt and muddy waters gaining salt.
Wonderful. Yeah, New Orleans. It is hot and sweaty sometimes in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Elle, do you want to share real quick? Oh, caught you mid-sip there. I was a waitress. I do that. Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. I wrote about a dump located 15 minutes away from me in a very tiny, tiny town called Carenport. Oh, sorry, one sec. I have music playing that I need to turn off. Pardon me.
We have a
can't write without music.
multimedia experience through you.
Yeah, sorry, I can't write without music. Okay.
That's okay.
So I reworked this. Originally, it was more of just like writing down a story or memory, but I hope this is a poem. Crunching gravel on a trail leads to the dumping ground. Dumped leaves, broken furniture, and huge concrete cubes. Dumped confessions of my love. Dumped fears and insecurities. You dumping me before we even began as us. I return here now, the old trash burned years ago. Will this sting again as in the beginning? Or be our final resting place?
I'm sure we can all relate. And that is the beauty of poetry, right? So thank you for sharing. Well, we just have a couple more things I wanted to mention. So one of the things I think you guys have been very good about is understand the timing, the rhythm, even though we're not rhyming and all of that. Just there is a cadence to it that, and so make sure to read it out loud. Today is not the last day for this poem. And I want you also to remember that your stories are worth hearing. I can't emphasize that enough. So you have become a poet, whether you like it or not. And, poetry is different. It's poetry mode is looking at everything, feeling everything. And I'm sure many of you are empaths. And so you can't be that way all the time. So make sure to, take time to be a poet and have that and open yourself up and be vulnerable. Don't have that be like your constant because it's wearing sometimes. So just be cognizant of your energy. Um, you know, um, keep keep reading. I'm not always good at this, but my editor says you need to read to write. Kind of fills you up with words, and then you are able to write more and write different words that you normally would think about. Go to places that inspire you, and make sure to keep a journal, share with friends, publish, self-publish. I self-publish. It's hard to get a poetry book out in the universe sometimes, so I encourage you to do that. And lastly, stay in touch. Here's my website, and I have a blog that I do somewhat regularly. It's not anything super duper heavy um, and then I have my books on there as well. I'm on Instagram and Facebook if you're into that. I'm not into TikTok. I just can't make the move. But I have another workshop next week at the same time. I'm going to talk about publishing tips, how to share your poetry with the world. So if you have time, I'd love to see you. Thanks again to everyone for sharing. And, I hope you enjoyed it and keep on writing. So I don't know, Ruth, do you have any closing remarks?
Yeah, real quick, if you'll stop share, I'll put
Yep, there we go.
mine up there. Thank you everyone for coming. I hope that you enjoyed this workshop. Just a reminder to you, your feedback matters. So help us to provide free poetry workshops by completing this short survey. There's the QR code. Unfortunately, I do not have the URL yet for that document. So if you can't use the URL, I apologize. We want to say thank you to our sponsors, and these are our sponsors that help us bring programs like this to you. And lastly, thank you for your support of Jack's Poetry Fest. And earlier, I had put that in the chat, the URL for that. So with that being said, thank you everyone for coming, and we'll see you again at the next workshop. So just check Hope at Hands Eventbrite and sign up. So that's it. That's a wrap. Thank you,
Thanks,
Carrie,
guys.
so much.
You're welcome. Bye, guys.